Hey everyone. Something just happened in the crypto world that could seriously shake up the entire market. Binance officially listed RLUSD, Ripple's stablecoin, and this isn't just another random listing. Today we're breaking down what this means for USDT, what happens to XRP, and whether the era of Tether's dominance is actually coming to an end. Honestly, when I heard about this, I knew it was a turning point. Because RLUSD isn't just another copy-paste stablecoin. It's a serious competitor backed by Ripple's massive network of financial institutions. Let's break this down step by step and see what's really going on. So here's what went down. On January 22, 2026, Binance launched RLUSD trading. This is Ripple's stablecoin, pegged to the US dollar. The launch went live with three main trading pairs: RLUSD to USDT, RLUSD to USDC, and the most interesting one, XRP to RLUSD. And here's what matters: Binance gave zero trading fees for the initial launch. That's a marketing move to attract traders and build liquidity. But the real thing here is that RLUSD already hit $1.3 billion in market cap in less than a year after launch. That's incredibly fast. Now, think about the scale. The entire stablecoin market is sitting at around $230 billion right now. Then RLUSD shows up, and in its first year, it's already cracking the top 100 crypto assets. That's a statement. What does this tell us? It means Ripple went all in. They didn't just create a stablecoin and hope for the best, they're pushing it through the world's largest exchanges. This is the beginning of a serious battle for market share. At first glance, all stablecoins look the same, they're all pegged to the dollar, right? But if you dig deeper, RLUSD has some serious advantages that set it apart. First, the reserves. RLUSD is backed 103% by US dollars, US Treasury bonds, and bank deposits that are insured by the FDIC. That means the government is basically guaranteeing that behind every token is actual money. This is a much more conservative approach than some competitors. Second, regulation. RLUSD is approved by the NYDFS, New York's Department of Financial Services. This is one of the strictest regulators on the planet. If you've passed NYDFS, you're the real deal. Third, infrastructure. Ripple isn't just some crypto startup. They have a network of over 300 financial institutions. They operate in 90 countries. And their RippleNet payment network is already integrated into banks and payment systems globally. So RLUSD isn't just another token on the blockchain, it's a real tool for cross-border settlements that actually works in the financial system. Fourth, real-world usage. RLUSD is already being tested by major organizations. For example, World Central Kitchen and Water.org are using RLUSD to send humanitarian aid. Think about that. This money is already working in real systems, not just being traded on exchanges. And fifth, scale. Ripple just signed a partnership with LMAX Group, a company that processes $8.2 trillion in trading volume every single year. When major players in traditional finance start working with your stablecoin, that's serious stuff. This is where it gets interesting. USDT dominates the market right now with 65-70% of all stablecoin liquidity. That's about $170 billion. A massive amount. And you'd think nothing could threaten something that big, right? But there are signs that Tether's monopoly is starting to crack. First, regulation. Europe just implemented MiCA, which requires 60% of a stablecoin's reserves to be held in European banks. Tether doesn't like this, they think it creates risks. But the market isn't waiting. Exchanges and investors are already switching to USDC and RLUSD because they're more transparent. Second, transparency concerns. Tether has always had questions about it. Where does the money come from? What are the actual reserves? For a long time, Tether didn't provide full audits. Meanwhile, RLUSD and USDC publish regular reports. This creates more confidence. Third, market sentiment shift. Major exchanges and payment systems are adding alternatives to USDT to diversify their holdings. It's a natural process. When one player dominates too much, the market looks for alternatives. But here's what you need to understand. This won't happen overnight. USDT won't collapse in a month. But the long-term trend is clear. Its market share is slowly but steadily declining. And when a new player enters with a better regulated product, backed by major financial institutions, and offering zero trading fees at launch, it accelerates this trend. Analysts estimate RLUSD could capture 3-5% of the stablecoin market in its first year. Right now, that's $4.5 to $7.5 billion. That doesn't sound scary for USDT on the surface. But remember, LUSD didn't even exist a year ago, and it's already grown to $1.3 billion. If that trajectory continues, we're talking about very rapid growth. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Because RLUSD and XRP aren't competitors, they're partners in the same ecosystem. Let me explain why. First, most of RLUSD will live on the XRP Ledger. It's its natural home. RLUSD was created on Ethereum, but its real potential unlocks when it's fully integrated into the XRP Ledger. And here's the Kyvery RLUSD transaction on XRPL will use XRP to pay the transaction fees. More RLUSD volume on the network means more XRP demand. Think of it like this. Imagine if Visa created its own stablecoin and said it only works on Ethereum but requires you to pay gas fees in Ethereum. Everyone who wants to use Visa coin has to hold Ethereum. That's essentially what's happening with RLUSD and XRP. Second, this creates a bridge between crypto and traditional finance. RLUSD is a trusted stablecoin backed by real financial institutions. XRP is the fuel of the network. So banks and payment systems that use RLUSD will simultaneously be using XRP. This is massive for adoption. Third, it brings new users and developers into the ecosystem. Before, if you wanted to use XRP, you had to understand crypto. Now you just use RLUSD for payments, and boom, you're a user of XRP Ledger automatically. The onboarding becomes frictionless. And here's what's happening on the technical level. XRP has been up 345% over the last 12 months. That's way more than Bitcoin at 65% and Ethereum at 52%. XRP is clearly attracting separate capital flows. And remember, this is before RLUSD is fully integrated on XRPL. Analysts are suggesting that when RLUSD is completely integrated into the XRP ledger, and when Ripple starts routing real transactions through RLUSD on RippleNet, XRP could see serious growth. Some models show potential for 2-4 in a conservative scenario and up to 7 in an optimistic scenario. Even AI models like ChatGPT predict XRP could hit the mid-4 range if the current trajectory continues. And that's just the baseline. So is RLUSD the final blow to USDT? No. This isn't a war to the death its market evolution. Listen, the stablecoin market isn't zero-sum. It's not like if RLUSD grows, USDT has to shrink in absolute terms. The whole market is expanding. New jurisdictions are opening up, new use cases are emerging, new payment systems are being built, but what's happening is redistribution. RLUSD, with its superior regulation, transparency, and built-in infrastructure, will attract new use cases that weren't being served before. USDT will likely remain the tool for speculation and retail trading on exchanges in developing countries. It's like how Coca-Cola stayed the leader even when new competitors arrived, they just captured different segments. Coke doesn't shrink. It just doesn't grow as fast. The important thing to understand is that this is actually good for the crypto market overall. When there's competition, there's innovation. When there are choices, we get better service. Plus, Ripple is planning to integrate RLUSD on multiple Ethereum Layer 2 networks in 2026 Optimism. Base Inc. Unichain. This expands the potential even further. RLUSD will be everywhere. And here's the most important part: regulation. If the US passes the CLEAR Act or Genius Act, which would require 100% reserve backing for stablecoins, RLUSD would be perfectly positioned to comply. Tether might need to restructure. Ripple is already ahead of the game here. So now the practical question: what does this mean for you? What should you actually do with this information? First, if you trade crypto, this opens up new opportunities. RLUSD liquidity on the world's largest exchange is no joke. You've got a new XRP RLUSD trading pair that could be more stable than trading XRP against volatile crypto assets. Second, if you're interested in long-term trends, watch how RLUSD gets used in actual payment systems. That's an indicator of which stablecoins are becoming the workhorses of the global economy. Third, if you're holding XRP, this is potentially a positive signal. More RLUSD usage on XRPL equals more XRP demand. That's not a price guarantee, but it's a fundamental catalyst. And fourth, diversify your stablecoins. If you were only holding USDT before, maybe it makes sense to hold some USDC and keep an eye on RLUSD. The stablecoin market is getting more complex, and it's smart to have options. Let's wrap this up. Binance listed RLUSD, that's a fact. It's a serious competitor in the stablecoin space. USDT won't crash tomorrow, but its market share is under pressure. RLUSD has better regulation, more transparent reserves, and is embedded in a massive network of financial institutions. This means stablecoin liquidity will redistribute toward more regulated alternatives. Potentially serious XRP growth when RLUSD fully integrates with the XRP Ledger. New trading opportunities and pairs emerging. Healthier competition in the crypto market. This isn't the end of USDT. This is the beginning of a new era where regulated, transparent stablecoins start taking the lead over those built on distrust and opacity. Remember, this is happening in real time. Over the next weeks and months, we'll see how RLUSD gets adopted across different systems, how volumes grow, and how the Ripple ecosystem develops. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next analysis and forecasts. See you next time.